the organized labor that has suspended its planned nationwide indefinite strike action for the next 1 month. This was contained in a memorandum of understanding signed yesterday by the NLC President Joe Ajaero and the General Secretary Emmanuel Obuaje, as well as the TUC President Festus Osifo and the Secretary General of the TUC Nuhu Toro. The 3-page document was also signed by the Ministry of Labor and Employment, Simon Lalong, the Ministry of State for Labor and Employment, Dr. Nkiruka Onyejocha, and Ministry of Information and National Orientation, Mohammed Idris. Let me flash you some of what they agreed on, or perhaps let me allow you to listen just in a moment what the labor leaders had to say afterwards.
We have a signed agreement, and we have signed this agreement with the belief that government will act in utmost good faith. We signed this agreement with the belief that every single item in this agreement are implementable. Every single item in this agreement, we are extremely serious about them, and we wish to also reiterate that we are expecting 100% implementation and not a 99% in any way.
There are about 15 points on that memorandum of understanding between both parties. Hopefully that will be in the interest of Nigerians. But let's hear from the president of the NLC, the Nigerian Labour Congress, Comrade Joe Ajaero, who joins us virtually now. Thank you so much, Comrade Ajaero, for joining us tonight. It does look like the federal government is listening and yielding to your demands, and it looks like you are also trying to understand the language of the federal government. But it looks to me that both parties are trying to be careful, and the federal government does not want you to go to the street or to go on strike, but you have given them a 30-day breather. But is it in the interest of Nigerians? Comrade, it seems you have muted your device. If you can unmute, please.
Yes. Responding to your question, well, if you call it understanding the federal government and the federal government understanding us, I think we are still at the preliminary stage. You know, a preliminary stage in the sense that what the federal government offered seemed to be a kind of promissory note. And then we felt that we should equally, you know, give them that benefit of doubt to see whether we can bridge that trust gap. And that was why we saw that 30 days for us to monitor developments. It doesn't mean that most of the items there will be, you know, realized within 30 days. No, you know, but there should be, you know, some level of performance, you know, for us to know that they actually are serious about it. So that's what we saw there. If that is understanding, then so be it.
So quickly, there are a few issues that I'd like to take you up on. 35,000 is what you have agreed in terms of workers' wages. How did you arrive at that?
Well, thank you very much. The agenda was set by Mr. President when he announced 25,000. And we looked at it empirically, you know, 25,000, you know, does not fall into any category of what was to happen. We looked at 50,000 and his negotiation. They got to 30. We insisted that we can't go below 40,000. And finally, they came to 35,000. If you look at that 35,000, you see above 100% increase from the minimum wage. And what we are discussing is wage award. Now, if you take that over 100%, and then you take, you know, whatever we are going to gain from the CNG buses when they eventually come on board, you know, you are going to gain close to 100%, if not more, from the operation of the CNG operated vehicles. You know, if you take the two, you'll be meeting up to the 200% increase in the pump price of petroleum products, so to say. And this is equally taking into consideration that within the next 6 months, we should be looking at what the minimum wage should be. This wage award is a kind of an intervention wage, preparatory to when the actual wage will be looked at. Then we are going to look at the inflationary rate, look at the value of the currency, look at the cost of living index, and other conditions will come to the table for us to determine what actually should be minimum wage. But meanwhile, this is a kind of intervention for us to be afloat till the time, minimum wage is actually discussed. And that was why the agreement, indicated that the minimum wage committee should be set up within the next 1 month. Statutorily, the minimum wage act should be expiring by March, April next year. So everything is tailored towards that moment.
So give us an understanding, Mr. Ajaero. 35,000 wage award. I mean, it doesn't, the way it was couched doesn't say minimum wage. It says it's the wage award. Does it mean that minimum wage now is 30,000? So what exactly does it mean? Does it mean now that the minimum wage will be 35,000 momentarily until it's being adjusted permanently? Or what is an addition to the 30,000 naira? What exactly does this mean?
The minimum wage is a product of law. It's legislated in the National Assembly. So whatever we agree, until it is legislated at the National Assembly, it is not yet minimum wage. The last negotiated minimum wage was 30,000 naira, and it is, inscribed into our statute books that we have 30,000 naira minimum wage. And that was why this one couldn't have answered minimum wage, when the law, will be expiring by April. So this one comes up under the form of, wage award. It's an award that is supposed to serve a purpose. It is an award that is supposed to take care of inflation, take care of the hardship necessitated by the increase in pump price of petroleum products. So it is not minimum wage, but it is a wage, added to the minimum wage. So should we in March, April, or before that time, negotiate the new wage to be 100,000, to be 200,000, it will be inscribed, as minimum wage law, which will be the new law in existence. But for now, what we have in our statute books as minimum wage is 30,000. But that person earning 30,000 is getting a total wage of 65,000. That is minimum wage approved and wage award. That's the situation today.
Oh, apologies. I'd like to get it clearly. So today, if the minimum wage is 30,000, is it that it's just 5,000 naira that is being added to it?
It's 30,000 minimum wage and wage award of 35,000, making it 65,000.
65,000. Okay.
Yes.
All right. Could it be possible that 65,000 could be the proposed minimum wage in the coming days or months?
So certain things will come into play, when we are discussing it. Inflation, cost of living, every other thing, will come into it. We will not go to ask for 65,000 because, we'll ask for a realistic amount. Because 65,000 you are talking of, it's still about $70, or thereabout. It's still not what should be minimum wage. It's not even up to $100. So when we come for minimum wage, we are going to look at a minimum wage. We are not going to ask for 65,000. Far from it.
So if you look at it, there were reports that over 160 billion was paid sometimes in August for some intervention on subsidy. Clarify for us, are you able to find that out when you were meeting with the president? Those who were critical and said, look, if the federal government says subsidy was gone, why would there be any kind of payment to subsidize or pay for any intervention on petrol since the end of May?
Well, that would be a wild goose chase. Why would I even say remove it and increase pump price of petroleum products? If they are under pressure and they decide to do some intervention, to equally, leak their vomit, that there is no subsidy, they have withdrawn it, and they are bringing it back, probably, to reduce a further increase or skyrocketing of the price, beyond limit. As a labor leader who is fighting for the interests of the masses, why would I insist that they should not pay that so that the price will go up? It will not. It is not necessary.
No, I'm talking about the sincerity to the Nigerian people. So yes, I mean, you as a labor leader wouldn't want any worker to pay any dime above what it is right now. But what about the propriety of the statement of the federal government when it says subsidy was gone? And that's what I'm wondering, because you have also in your MOU wanting to know the state of the refinery, and you have set up a committee based on that MOU to monitor what is going on. So accountability is part of what you are asking for. If that is the case, did you in any case, in any of these conversations, did it come up whether or not Nigerians need to know if the federal government made any payment since the subsidy was gone?
I would be the happiest person for them to reintroduce subsidy, so that prices of PMS will return to 185. So if they are gradually or instrumentally bringing it back, now you will see that it will be a plus to not only the workers, to all Nigerians. Because prior to now, the impression they gave to us was that nobody, is being subsidized, that the money was going to the people who are just importing. Now, if you take it from the point of 185 naira per liter to the point of 600 and something per liter, you discover that for every liter I decide to buy, or you decide to buy, you have 400 naira in it. And if you buy 100 liters, you have 400 naira by 100. Now, you don't need any mathematician to tell you that, the government is subsidizing it. And in fact, today, they are subsidizing it again at 600 and something. I will not say remove the ceiling, or even for the purpose of accountability, I will know that they have realized their mistake, and probably, they want to see how they can correct it, without, accepting the guilt publicly.
So give us an understanding. You are also pushing that the state government will also follow suit. And you are asking that if there is going to be payment of wage award, that the state government also, because the federal government is what is captured in your MOU, only federal government public workers will benefit from all of this.
Yeah, the issue is that even in the negotiation of minimum wage or wages, what we'll do is to set a benchmark. Even if you check out the minimum wage discussions, we'll set a benchmark for which we don't expect anybody, to go below. But in most instances, the federal government pay higher, like some states. In most instances, you see Lagos, you see River State, you see other states paying higher. Now, what we have tried to do is to look at a kind of benchmark. But bear in mind that before now, the state governments have done some intervention. Some of them are paying 10,000, some 20,000. I was made to understand that one of the states are already paying 30,000 because of the realities of the moment, because of the disequilibrium created by the increase in pump price of petroleum products. So they already are trying to address it. Now we try to figure it out at a certain amount, and then we are urging them, to face the realistic aspect of this. Those state governments are just giving it as mere tokenism to assist workers, as the case may be. Now that this price has been fixed, they are equally urged, to queue, to make sure that this is realized. Ditto the private sector.
Okay, one other issue here is the issue of the relationship with the federal government. And in fact, they've brought, there were those in some quarters that have raised question mark about the relationship of the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Labour Party, saying that some of the actions of Labour is being politicized. and there seems to be some distrust between the parties. Are you able to clarify to Nigerians about how Labour, NLC that is, stands during the political season and outside political season, and when there are issues relating to the average worker?
Well, there's no party that was not formed by anybody or group of people. You know, some of the parties were formed by retired generals, and we all know this. The same thing with the Labour Party. We don't have apology for forming the Labour Party. Historically, the Labour Party is organized and formed by the trade unions all over the world. And I've said it elsewhere that from the early 1918 down the line to 1945, Michael Imodu came up with the Labour Party. 1964, Semi Imodu, and a few others. 1987, Pascal Bafia, and 2003, Adams Oshomole, who later became chairman of APC. Now, within that time when Adams was contesting for governorship, the Labour Party aligned with those that formed APC, AG, and the ACN then, to sponsor Adams for him to enjoy a joint ticket. Then it wasn't a crime if Labour Party decides to, align or form an alliance with other political parties. But thereafter we changed, to have our own party. Today we are not aligned to any political party, and we don't have apologies for forming a party that will be beneficial to ordinary Nigerians. Just like the other parties are meant for other Nigerians to be used. All the members of the Labour Party are not workers, they are not trade unionists. If you check the people in the National Assembly today, they are not even members of any Labour union. The same thing with even the presidential candidate of Labour Party is not in any way related with any Labour union. So any Nigerian that wants to belong to the Labour Party is free to belong to the Labour Party. Now, but one of our aims in forming the Labour Party is critically being achieved, that the Nigerian workers cannot survive under even this minimum wage to buy a form to contest for even councillorship in any of the right-wing political parties, be it APC, be it PDP. That was why we said we must have our own party where a messenger, where a clerk can run an election in this country and win. And what we saw from the last election was a situation where even Okada riders are in the National Assembly today through the Labour Party. So if anybody is having any doubt about it, the aims and objectives of forming the Labour Party is being achieved. And we don't have apology for it. If you can have your own party, why wouldn't the workers have their own party?
Let me get your view on item 8 on the MOU signed, which says the federal government commits to pay $25,000 per month for 3 months, starting from October 2023 to 15 million households, including vulnerable pensioners. There have been agitations about the register that would be used to administer this kind of payment to the household. How do you identify these households? How do you then be able to ensure that this is not politicized? Has Labour agree, or did Labour agree on this point? Did you also give your own agenda in the manner in which the federal government should pursue this? Because there are those who fear that these monies are going into the pockets of politicians and going into the hands of some of these state governors. There are those who have argued that they are not certain that these monies are going to be utilized for the purpose in which they are being assigned. Do you have that fear?
Well, these were the same fears expressed when this negotiation started in June. We discredited the list that was in existence before now. Even the governors at the stage, doubted that list. Then between that time and now, I think there's a serious job, taking place to ascertain the real people that should benefit from this. I think it's more or less from our discussions, this matter may be concluded by the end of the month. So it's like the payment may start, next month. Now, the payment will be through biometrics, from all those houses. Now, we raise the issue, the question of whether those people at that level, whether they have bank accounts and other details. And arrangements were already being made with strong assurance, that even those that don't have such account, arrangement will be made for accounts to be opened if they are identified, with all other facilities of paying them this money. Now, if you remember at the onset, what they were discussing was 5,000 to this class. And we said no, until a register, is authenticated. And that's the level we are now. You can't pay. And that 5,000 was too small. The federal government came again to say 8,000, and we rejected it. Now we have moved to the level of 25,000, for every household, that are classified under that. Now we are moving forward to conclude, re-verify, the register. So until this is done, you can't just pay money to anybody that you can't equally prove it. So I think we have moved beyond that level now.
All right. So, President NLC, finally, my last question to you would be your item number 15. It looks to me that you wanted to put into concrete your agreement with federal government, and there are those who believe that perhaps the reason why this clause have come up is because the federal government sometimes have not lived up to expectation and live up to fulfilling his own end of the bargain. Now, you have said, or the both parties agree, that a memorandum of understanding shall be filed with the relevant court of competent jurisdiction within 1 week as consent judgment by the federal government, which I think you as a lawyer also will be thinking in your mind that you want something that will be binding on both parties and nobody will renege at the end of the day. Is that the thinking or the intentions of Labour?
Well, from this statement, you can see the intention of the drafters of that agreement, is to make sure that every party lives up to expectation, equally to make sure that each party, goes into this process with good faith, so that we won't be going front and back. You discover that part of the problem we have had in the past, whether it is the problem of tertiary institution workers or whatever, is inability to, follow strictly to the agreement. And the federal government, through Mr. President, said that the era of broken promises are over. And if you equally watch, the altercation between even the Attorney General of the Federation and Labour, over the issue of either court order or no court order, over the issue of an ex parte that is translating to be a perpetual injunction, an interlocutory injunction. When we went to court to vacate this order, which is expected in law, the federal government said the agreement or resolution of this matter will be brought to court as a consent judgment for this matter to be reconciled. So we want everybody to be sure that this matter is rested, not tomorrow, when you break any part of it and Labour says you have broken part of this, you will say there's a court order.
So the planned nationwide strike has been suspended for 30 days. Hopefully that the federal government keeps its own end of the bargain. Is that it?
Exactly. As Labour is keeping their own part of the bargain, by calling off the strike, we expect the federal government to keep their own part of the bargain because they entered into this agreement, voluntarily.
All right. So, but I mean, as things will improve within your relationship with federal government, the organized labor and the federal government?
Well, what we saw was promissory notes, and that's all this. And that was why you saw the provision for 1 month. So as we progress, we know whether, we are going to walk the talk.
All right. In all of this, the most important and the most paramount is the interest of the Nigerian people. The over 200 million lives of the Nigerian people matter in all of this. Either those who are in the brown khaki on the street or those who are in the black tie and suit in the boardroom in the presidential villa, all should be working in the interest of the average Nigerian, and that we hope that will happen in the coming days. Thank you so much, most sincerely, the president of the NLC, Mr. Joe Ajaero, for your time tonight.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.